So, welcome everyone back to another club interview. I'm today here with Lisa, a good friend of ours. And this one is going to be really, really exciting because Lisa was the reason why we run the first program we ever run in the US. So, we are really, really glad we did that. And yeah, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about yourself and about the club that you represent.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Lisa Stickley. I actually started rowing just about 4 years ago and came into the club at Indianapolis Rowing Center. So that's in Indianapolis, Indiana, and joined that club doing a learn to row. So came in as an adult, naturally into the program like that. Over the years, have progressed. I was the interim head of adult programming at Indianapolis Rowing Center for a little while. I'm on the board. I'm also obviously an active rower on the competitive team. I'm a coach. So kind of have played and been involved in all the roles that there are at my club. The unique thing about Indianapolis is we only have one rowing center. So we have a huge city, but only one place that we have a rowing club, and it's inside of a park. So it can be a little bit difficult for folks in Indy to know that we're even there. And so it took me, obviously, as an adult, I didn't know we had a rowing club in Indianapolis, and I've lived in Indianapolis my entire life. So it was interesting to find that as an adult, and then obviously completely fell in love with rowing to the point where obviously I have, like I said, done all of those roles in a short period of time over 4 years. So that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, so amazing to hear your journey, Lisa. And just like you said, you basically have had like almost every role someone can have within the club. So you've been a beginner yourself, and then you climbed up, obviously, to being part of the board. Then you took care of the whole adult programming. And then also, like quite recently, you have started also coaching other people also, which is kind of fun. Like you've done everything that someone can do within a club. Now, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about the situation at Indianapolis Rowing Center before we got in contact and before we ran this program. How was everything looking there? Yeah, walk us a little bit through like the club, the structure, and everything.
Yeah, so the original structure was probably what most clubs do. It was a monthly learn to row. So most of the time it would be friends and family members of people who were currently in the club. The class sizes would be relatively small, somewhere between 10 and 16 people. They would run eight sessions a month, and we would do that from May through September. And the retention rate wasn't great. I would say maybe 15%, 10% initially coming right out of the month of Learn to Row. But from a successful standpoint, it wasn't working the way that I knew that it could and then knew that it should. So I knew something needed to change. And hearing feedback from people that had gone through the program before, and then me myself going through the program and seeing the challenges that came, coming into the sport brand new, and the continuation of how that flowed through our club. I knew that I knew there was a better way.
Yeah. And also, it's good that you said it in the beginning, Lisa. I think this is like super, super common in the US, right? This structure, because I've been looking around a little bit and talk with other clubs, and just having this like running small programs like 4 times or 5 times a year is seems to be like the US way of doing these learn to roam programs. Now, can you walk us a little bit more through the main challenges that you guys were facing with this structure? Was it like obviously you talked a little bit about like it was hard to retain people, but how do you what would you say was the main let's say issue with the way that you, or let's put it, the main challenge with the way that you were running the program before? Was it like getting people through the door or getting them to stay? How was it looking?
Yeah, there were two big problems. Problem number one was just getting people through the door. Like I said, I mean, I've lived in Indianapolis my whole life. I had no idea we had a rowing program. So making people aware of what rowing is, because it is a very unique sport, and it's not something that people, it's not basketball or football, it's not on the TV all the time. So just making people aware of what rowing is. That's hard. And then 2, letting people know that there's a program in Indianapolis. And where is that at? How do I do that? Can I do that as an adult? I mean, my initial reaction when someone told me about it was, oh, I can't. I didn't do this in high school. I didn't do this in college. So that was problem number 1, is just we exist and here's the product. Problem number 2 was once people went through the program was we didn't have a structure set up appropriately for monthly trickle in of athletes to our existing program. So here's what I mean by that is someone would graduate, learn to row. And obviously when you graduate, learn to row, you don't really know how to row, right? Like you understand some basic concepts, but like you really fundamentally, like you really don't know how to row. Any boat you get into, you're going to screw up. So what was happening is that the structure that we had was we had just one giant team. We called it the tech team. I don't know why, but we did. So it was the tech team. And basically everybody that graduated, learned to row, went into this group. And so the problem is you had too many variations of skill levels in that team to make it such that anybody could have an effective row and learn and progress. And so people were getting beyond frustrated because they may be in a boat with someone who's been rowing for 6 months, in a boat with someone who just graduated after taking 8 sessions. And we all know the escalation is super quick as you learn to row. I mean, you go from not even knowing how to hold an oar to, rowing pretty well in 6 months. And so we really needed to then figure out a team structure that worked well to make it so there was a gradual transition from learn to row into a basically extension of learn to row. And then we also needed to make a 3rd tier team, which was, hey, you're doing well, but you're not ready to race at a 40, right? Like you're not ready to go down the course, at a 40 and hit those rates, hit those splits. So we had to really, it forced us to completely rethink how we were approaching bringing adult athletes into the program and what that progression was going to look like and setting up a structure for success.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And I think also like just the way of like that structure, having these little courses running all the time, that's basically like a recipe to burn out the coaches and everyone else. Because like what happens is that there are like small groups of people coming in all the time that are all the time in different levels, and the group maybe is not big enough so they can train on their own time. So I totally get you. I totally get the frustration. And Lisa, now that we understood a little bit more what the situation was, what would you say, like, how was the board feeling about this? Was it something that they knew existed? Was it something that you guys were trying to address?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as a general feeling, kind of before this, we went through this whole First Strokes program was, we have a team of about 350 people. Yeah. And, I'd say a little more than half of those rowers were juniors. They were, high school and middle school athletes. And there was just a lot of focus on how do we help the junior rowers. And there wasn't a lot of focus on the master rower. And I just felt very strongly that the foundation of any club is the master rower. And the reason being is they're going to be a member for the longest amount of time. They're also the members that typically have enough money to be the people who donate. They're also the members who are the ones who are able to volunteer. So from a core standpoint, I try to always make this analogy, your rowing club should be a pyramid. And the bottom of the pyramid should be the master rower. And then to me, the next is the middle school. They're there from 6th grade to 12th grade. Then it kind of goes up from there. So I really wanted to focus on and put a lot of attention towards how do we acquire and retain a master rower, because they're a member from 21 to 81. So that was really the goal in my head, to find a long-term vision. And then it was, okay, how do we start that? Well, we have to start by getting people who have no idea what rowing is.
Yeah, no, and you're saying this really good. I think like that's the actual way of running a club that is like future-proof. Like if you have this kind of structure that you said, like it's really hard to for something to break, because like if you have enough of masters that are there helping out with stuff, obviously also they have some money because they have been working their whole life, so they can pay also the club. It really like makes it easy to build on top of that. I think especially some clubs that we talk with, they almost have it like upside down. They are like, let's hold the master group as little as possible, because they are the ones that cannot win on competitions or something, like, so everyone has their different opinions, and I'm not here to like step on anyone's toes, but what I'm trying to say is like, this group, it's like a untapped power, like there is this big group of people that both have time and money, and I think they 100% have their space within the club, within a successful club. That said, it doesn't like make the club let's say it like less competitive if you have masters. That's also something that a lot of clubs have in mind. They just want like, the juniors, they are racing, they're the ones that can be like in big competitions, represent the club, or win at Olympics. So we focus on them, and then the rest, like whatever they can do. And I think of what you described and of what we have talked before, that was a little bit the theme here as well, that let's put a lot of attention, a lot of coaches, our best coaches within the juniors, which is good, but then totally overlook the other group, which was the adults. And what would you say, Lisa, what would you say was something that you guys wished you could do, but given the situation you were in, you couldn't?
That's a good question. I think just really this team structure that we rolled out. I mean, going into this program was a leap of faith. Because we had to plan that it would be successful. And what I mean by that is, we had to assume that we were going to get the number of new athletes that we got and plan 6 months in advance for it being successful by having equipment, coaches trained, ready to go. Do we have enough launch boats? Do we have, we actually hired a new, head coach for our adult program. I mean, we had to take a big leap of faith that this was going to be successful, because if it was, we were doubling the size of our master's program. So that was probably the biggest challenge was, I had to turn into a rowing coach salesperson. I had to go out and I recruited a lot of people from my competitive team, which actually turned out to be an amazing asset. Of just saying, hey, like, you're obviously are in the sport, you're doing really well. I mean, the nice thing in Indianapolis Rowing Center, we have really, really been successful as a master's program. So, multiple national championships in the last few years. I mean, like, so we have a really strong team to tap into. And so being able to get those coaches was really beneficial.
Yeah. And I also just want to like a really quick mention, like, we are now talking about like we are getting under the hood like of what was the issues and this and that, but I just want to make it really clear to the clubs out there that Indianapolis Rowing Club is like Indianapolis Rowing Center is like a big functional club. Like, it's not like if you see it from outside, everything looks like perfect. You guys have like a lot of people, you have a lot of boats, you have a lot of people helping out, a lot of volunteers. So that said, like, even big, and you are not a small club, you are like mid-size big club. So even like I just, what I want to say is like, even clubs that it looks like they have everything sorted out, like maybe there is one or two things that you really want to work on, but you haven't really got it to work on your own.
Yeah, so, and I think that every club goes through a progression of moving from being a club of casual sport, right? Where we just like to get together and we like to play in boats, and then at a certain point, your club gets to a size where you have to look at it as a business, right? And so you have to look at it from a different angle. Yes, we're a non-for-profit, but in order to be a non-for-profit, we need to make profit to be able to give back to the community. So, you need to look at it as a business and really take those hard steps of what are we not doing well? Like, and it's not even that you're not doing it well. What could we execute better? Right. And what could we execute better, and where can we make more money to better serve our athletes, our community, because we can't lose that focus of most rowing clubs are, not most, some are non-for-profits, and we are one of those. And so our goal is to make money to continue to grow the sport of rowing in Indianapolis and give back to the community. So in order to do that, we have to make money, and if we don't make money, we can't do that. If we don't grow, we can't do that. So I think it's important to, it gave me, going through this process, you guys gave me the opportunity to turn a spotlight on something that I knew was a problem, but it gave me a path to be able to really sit in it and make some dramatic changes that need to get it to where it was. So
So and I really love that you brought this up, Lisa, because like that's something that we like. That's something that we also really believe in. Like just everything that you said now. Like yes, you are a non-profit, but you have to run your club as a business. Like, and it's not about like everyone is like, I think also like since most of the clubs are non-profit, it feels almost like a bad thing to ask about money, or like it's a God forbid, it's not good to like ask about money. You should try to make everything as cheap as possible, make everyone happy. But reality is that in order to make people happy, you need to give back to them. You need to give back good services, good coaching, good boats, and all those stuff cost a lot of money. So the only like ethical thing you could do is to charge enough so you can like have a functional club that actually serves your people, gives them what they want, and also you can, as a club, set aside money so you can actually build facilities, just get everything, go to the other level. And just like you said, I think if you see it like from a less selfish perspective, from not just like, oh, our club, it's like also doing something good for the sport. If you're like,
for sure. Yeah, and I think the key thing that came to my head really quickly, as I came on the board, transitioning from just being an athlete in the club to coming to the board is yes, the club is a non-for-profit, but as a rower, I'm a customer, right? Like as a rower in a club, you are a customer, and so as a customer, you should have good equipment, you should have good coaches, and in order for me as the customer to feel like my money that I'm giving you is worth something. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's an equation there of I'm going to give you an X amount of money and I expect Y in return. So I think clubs need to be cognizant and careful with their clients, which is the rowers and the athletes, that they're charging enough to be able to provide good quality service to their customers.
Exactly, and it's like it's really easy to mess up this equation, to be honest, just because you want to be nice, you want to like it because like, let's be honest, like charging people money, it feels almost like you are demanding so much, and then some of the clubs are also like scared, can we actually deliver such good services? But the thing is that if you don't get the money up front, then you are 100% not going to be able to deliver the services.
Right. So well, and the growth that we've had even just in a short amount of time has allowed us to increase what we're putting in our scholarship funds and things like that, so that we can even give, because we're doing what we're doing, we're going to be able to give more back next year.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's a circle, and it all starts with, you just have to get people in the door. You have to get new people in the door. So it starts.
100%. And now I also like, my next question was like the negative impacts on the members before we start with the program, but I think we almost like answered this one. It's like just what we said, not having enough money, not having the right structures, not having a lot of the same of their avatar. Like everything is like, as a member, like if you don't get good equipment, you don't have a lot of people that you can row with, and the structure is like not properly set up, then it's like, I'm not getting the most out of this. Like, is there maybe anything out there that's better than being at the club? And that's the last thing you want people to think of, because that means that they're about to
Right.
like do something else than rowing, which is not good.
Yeah, they're going to go take their money and they're going to go sign up for a gym or a
Yeah,
group
correct.
fitness class, or
Yeah,
because that's basically what any sport is battling against is, where am I going to put my money? I want to be active. Where am I going to put my
yeah,
money? And so
yeah,
as a club, you need to be able to produce a product that
yeah,
competes against what else is in the market
yeah,
at a better level, right?
yeah.
So that's the whole goal is
Oh my God. Yeah,
to
you
show that
Lisa
you're
bring
rowing. Yeah, you're
you're
rowing
bringing out
club.
so good points. You're bringing out so
Yeah.
good points, and that's something that clubs forget. We
Mhm.
are clubs. We compete against clubs. They think, but
No,
that's not reality. You are competing against
no.
everyone else. You're competing against
Yep.
people that put like hundreds of thousands of dollars into marketing every month,
Yep.
and most of the
Yeah.
clubs don't do anything about they don't even
Yeah.
know what marketing is, and then you are
Yeah.
like surprised of like, why is rowing so small? Like
Mhm.
of course it's gonna be small forever if we as clubs don't make like the changes in order to actually start competing with other training alternatives out there.
Yeah.
Now, Lisa, let's talk a little bit more about how we got in contact to
Yeah.
everyone watching this. So
Yeah.
you can tell them.
Yeah. So you guys actually stalked me on Concept 2 for my erg
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
So yeah, I do enjoy the erg, and so you guys have obviously an international rowing team, RowFit, and so
Yeah.
you found me. You were happy with my erg times, and coached me to a bronze medal in my age class in the 500 meter at Worlds last year, which was awesome.
That was amazing. Yeah,
Thank you. Hopefully, going to do
yeah.
better than that this year is the plan.
Of
But
course.
yeah, so that just that through that coaching and that relationship, that's where it started. And
Yeah,
I think us just chit chatting about what you were doing over there in Sweden with some of the rowing clubs
yeah, yeah,
got me thinking of, well, I wonder if we could do something like that over here. So
yeah. And I
obviously different scale and different location, but
Yeah,
similar concept.
and I think this also like I need to give some kudos to you as well, because like just being open-minded, like basically that's the only reason why we ran this program, because
Mhm.
you were like okay with saying like, okay, we can get some help if they've done it, let's try it here also. And it's always much more risk the first time you do something in the whole country than everyone else that follows after that, because then it's already proven. And then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the offer. It's not, when I say risk, it's like the things that you said, that we prepare a lot of stuff like without getting the results. But when it comes to like money and stuff like that, the offer that we are running is like risk free. But still, you like putting time on things that you wished happened but didn't happen. But yeah, so that's how we got in contact. And just like I said, because Lisa is open-minded, and she thought like and positive, and thought like let's do this over here. That's how we got in touch. Now, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about like the process. Obviously, we knew each other from our group that we coach, but the rest of the board didn't know us. So
Right.
we got in touch with them. So tell us a little bit more about that, how the process was. And also, I want to also go in a little bit more into like what maybe were your initial thoughts as within the board, and then also maybe something that you guys were afraid of, or something that you maybe didn't want to happen. Because let's be honest, when you run something of this size, like, and when you have also that many decision makers, like a lot of things are being said within the board. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think originally when I presented it to the board, I think the original response was, okay, that's interesting. We've never done a paid social media marketing campaign before. Let's hear more about it. But I think if we hadn't continued the conversations and really pushed the conversation, because I think the key is the offer that you have.
Yeah.
It is to a degree no risk from a pure dollar perspective for the paid social media, because
Yeah.
and that was the key for me to be able to pitch it successfully to the board was
Yeah.
you were doing the marketing, which we all know is very expensive. And the cost to the club was zero. We did set up a deal where we got a portion that basically covered our operating costs. So
yeah, exactly.
Which was great. But to be able to do a no risk campaign like that, where you only got paid for butts and seats, to me, anytime in business when you can be a win-win situation, where what I mean by that is you win because you're being paid for the service that you're performing, and we win because we get the customer that we want. That's rare, right? And the offer that you guys gave us was exactly that. We ended up at the end of the day making a little bit of money, nothing crazy, nothing that would be, to write home about, but that wasn't what we were doing it for. We were doing it for the retention, right? It was how many more members were we going to get? And so from a board perspective, that's just what I focused on, just over and over and over and over again was, guys, hey, what we've been doing, how we've been attracting people, it's just not working. We're going to hit a ceiling where, there's not any more friends or family that want to try rowing. There's only so big how much you can grow that we have to tap into social media. And in order to do that, if we were to gone to a normal marketing company, they would have said, I don't know, $50,000, and we don't know if it's going to work. And that just wasn't that, our club, because we're not for profit, we have to be stewards of our money. We can't just, we can swing for the fences, but they have to be controlled swings, And so you guys offered a very unique scenario where we could swing for the fences from a marketing standpoint, but there really was no risk. You guys were the ones that were really risking, because if it didn't work, you were out money. I was in the same situation, basically. All the time and energy that it took to plan for it. But I'm not a paid board member, so it's just volunteer hours, and so it was obviously a significant amount of time to do all that. But that's part of what you do when you're on the board. So that was my approach, was really just to try to present it to the board of, look, here's the problem, here's a solution. It's not going to cost us any money. I'm willing to take the lead on this. Just let me go. Right. And they could tell that I was crazy enough about it that they were like,
okay. You were really, that was the fun part of this. Like, you were really, really excited going into this. Like, and I think because we have done obviously this with a lot of clubs, we've done it with more like almost 15 clubs now. Like, the amount of energy you had, like, we haven't really seen that in other clubs, to go in with that. Like, a lot of people are a little bit like, this is, oh my God, maybe this includes some extra work, or maybe this does that. You get it. But you have to see it also like from a perspective that you said. And going back to the thing that you said about the offer, like, our goal, or let's call it our mission, is to like not charge the club. We come from the clubs. Like, we have been rowing like for like 16 years now. My brother has been rowing for more than that. Like, we know that rowing clubs don't have the amount of funds to do the things that we are helping them with. So the idea when we create our offer is like, how can we make this like a no-brainer to the club? Mm-hmm. Like, because like you said, if you are will to grow, this is like, it's a no-brainer. Like, we pay the money, we film all the marketing material, we do all the copy, we do all the landing pages, we do all the communication. We also, and since we grown so much and we have done with different clubs, like, we also do the coaching education, because some of the clubs like don't have that set up, or we do reach out to coaches. So we are trying to basically just like, say like, guys, if you want to grow, just say yes, and we got you covered. Like, you're going to get everything you want. And just like you said at the beginning, yes, the first month the club basically makes zero, because like everything has a cost to it, like doing the campaigns, doing everything. So for the actual program, it goes like, the club doesn't have any risk. They don't pay any huge amounts of money for that part. But then after that, as soon as like the program is done, the money comes rolling in, and we've seen amazing things for the clubs, and we're gonna go into that also. So just we talked about this. I think like you almost touched base on it, but we said that yes, there is some people have different opinions. They maybe some are scared of doing different things. What do you think was the reason that the board said yes to it? Either way, like no matter the risks or maybe the fears that they had, what was the one single reason that made them say, you know what, let's go for it?
I think part of it was illustrating kind of what I touched on before of that pyramid. We needed to make a change in what our base subscription model is, how I kind of refer to it, of rowing. So we needed to do it, and we needed to do it dramatically, because to invert that pyramid, it couldn't take, it needed to happen quickly and effectively, because once you have a certain number of people, well, then you can hire the better coaches, you can get more boats, you can do, give back more to community, more to scholarships. And I knew, and that was probably why I was so, had so much vigor to get this done, is because I saw it as a way to do that quickly. Versus, yes, maybe we could have done a few social marketing campaigns on our own, tried to figure it out. Maybe our numbers would have gone from 10 per month to 25 or 20, a little bit of growth. But that wasn't going to fundamentally change what we needed to do. And it wasn't going to give us the bandwidth to do all of the other things that were going to come after that. So really just selling that idea of, guys, if we're going to do this, we got to rip the Band-Aid off. It's no risk from a cost perspective, and just knowing that, and really just putting pen to paper of calculating for the board. If we hit this target, this is the amount of money we're going to have per month. Now multiply that by 12. That's a pretty sexy number. So, it's like, that was really, pointing that out. And then once I laid out numbers like that, it was like, okay, that sounds nice. Let's try, So
I don't know, like that's the thing with most of the people, like you really need to almost like draw like everything, like the cost, and like we said, no cost associated, no this, no that, and then also like show just within 1 year what you can see for results, and the results are really crazy that we have seen with Clouds within a year. So I mean, you just need to like be open to see it for what it is, and then just like realize that, okay, this kind of makes sense. So now, Lisa, obviously we are done with the program, otherwise we wouldn't sit here and talk about it. That would be weird. So we are done with the program. We had 120 people signing up, and as far as what I know, it has to be the biggest beginners program in the US. How does that make you feel and the rest of the board?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I also say that it's the biggest in the US ever too. I'm proud. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of our club. I'm proud of us for taking some bold moves. I'm proud of you guys for what you did. Coming over here and doing this for the first time in the US is incredible. And I'm most proud of just all the new rowers that we have and the energy that they brought into the boathouse. And, that sustained, we already had a great culture, but sustaining that culture and bringing people into the fold has been exciting. And it's been, it's transformative for the club. I mean, to be able to expose that many people, the ripple effects from that, we already have people saying, oh my gosh, I have a whole group of my friends that want to do for strokes, which is what we call the program. I want to do it next year. Can't wait to sign up, So, and then, the other thing is those adults that did it, they have kids who are now for the first time thinking about rowing. And so, like I said, the ripples off of that, and just purely our social media presence, the number of followers that are just have gone 1,000-fold. And I'm not exaggerating, like 1,000% more. And so, now our exposure to the city and to people and to the, our exposure to the rowing community has grown. And all of that just compounds upon itself. We're able to get better coaches. If we get better athletes, who are committed, well, now our adult program is from a trajectory of, as far as competition, if you want to go from that route, through the roof. I mean, we're crushing it. And so, but in the same token, we still have people that are are just enjoying being outside and things, getting off the couch and putting their phone down and being in a boat. So
Yeah.
I think the ripple effect has
Yeah.
been really the coolest
Yeah.
part.
I think, and that's a good thing that you're mentioning. I think, like, if you set things up correctly, if you have like the idea, if you are purpose of what you're doing, like, like just in a club perspective, if you set everything up right, like, you cannot have too much of things. Like, you cannot have
Yeah.
too many. It's just like it's fun to have people there. It's fun to have people going to competitions. It's fun to have people being excited. People that are just like out on the lake and just train because they want to be in shape. Everyone should, I think, and that's what you guys are doing really good. Everyone should be able to like decide what they want to achieve with with the sport. You just need to be the best provider at it. You just need to be the one that make sure that the coaches are on point, make sure that the boats are as good as they can be, make sure that the facilities are looked after, make sure that everything runs smoothly. And as long as you do that, I mean, you are like a successful club. Like, you are you are ready to open up multiple locations. Once you got everything right, then you can go over and conquer the world and just make rowing the biggest sport out there. But it always starts with like these small things, getting everything in place, making everything right from the beginning, so you can actually grow with more people, more coaches, and everything. Now, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about like the actual numbers. I'm sure that people watching this now, they are a little bit interested. Like, okay, we got 120 people going this program. Let's say, what was first of all required from the club side when it comes to boats and coaches, and then from that perspective, then we can move on to like, how does it look now? How many new coaches have you get from that? How much money do you make a month from these people? How many people are actually still at the club? So just walk us through the numbers a little bit so people can get excited.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the lofty goal was 120. And we did hit 120. Obviously, with any program, there's going to be some attrition. We had people who had an injury or an illness or something. I think our actual executed number was right around 109, somewhere around there. And so what we did was we offered 7 sessions a day or 7 sessions a week, and we varied the times. And that also gave our club the opportunity to try programming at different hours. Obviously, every boathouse's goal is to be running programs all day long, right? Because that's the most efficient use of your boathouse. So we tried mornings, we tried evenings, we tried weekends. So it gave us an opportunity to see, what does the market want? So that was a really good benefit of that too. We strategically did it in July. And the reason being is we used college and high school kids to run the entire program. And so they were home from college. And obviously, these college and high school kids, they've been rowing for 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, so they're highly educated in the sport of rowing. And tapping into that and tapping into their enthusiasm, getting them US level 1 coaching certified, all of that stuff obviously was a process and was not was an undertaking. I don't want to undersell that. But it also was very effective, and their energy was great, and they were open to learning and things like that. Now, we also did have adult coaches as well. But really using that. And then we tried to run programming if we could and when we could in back-to-back sessions. And that was really successful. So for example, 2 or 3, I think it was 3 of the nights a week, we would actually run 2 back-to-back sessions. We would have 66 athletes on and off the water within a 4-hour period. And having, getting the efficiency around that and that whole situation was key. Because in order to bring that many new people through, in and out, in a boat, out, and do that successfully, took a lot of operational strategy, but was definitely doable with the right structure. And so from a perspective of, what we needed, well, it was, we had to have at least 5 8s to run the numbers that we were doing. And that worked great. And so we just obviously used our most loved boats for this program and our most loved oars. And but even then, before we did it, we got every single one of those shells down. We got them in best shape that they could. We wanted to
Yeah.
produce a product and get people in a
Yeah.
boat that was functional, but
Yeah.
also that was a little indestructible. So that was the benefit too, of being able to have that kind of equipment to be able to offer to folks, but still offering it, making sure the shoes were in good shape and the oars were in good shape and everything worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was really operationally, once you have the structure down, it was really just execute.
Yeah.
Because it was the same thing over and over again 7 times, right? So once you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it once,
And
you just repeat
yeah.
it 7 times for the week, and then the next week you move on to the next 7 things. So
Yeah. Exactly.
it was obviously everyone's done a Learn to Row. I'm sure that's watching this, and so
Yeah.
it was the same progression of a month of Learn to Row. It was just on a more massive scale, but the
Yeah.
coaching style and what you were actually teaching from a technique
Yeah.
standpoint was
Yeah.
exactly the same. I would say
Yeah.
the biggest difference that we also did was coaching from the cock seat. So
Yeah.
I intentionally made sure that we were overstaffed.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, why would you want to do that? You already
Yeah.
weren't making money, or you were
Yeah.
already estimating to break even.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to sell a very high caliber product. And so
Yeah.
all of our coaches wore matching shirts, they wore name tags. We all had, we all communicated via walkie talkies. I mean, it was a very well structured,
Yeah. It was.
execution.
Yeah. It really ran like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I still say I am still talking about the opening ceremony when we were there, and I just like I've never seen so much energy within a rowing club. Like never. Like the amount of like people that were there on the spot. And don't get me wrong, we have run this program with like even more people than we did this time here in Sweden. I'm not talking about the amount of participants. I'm talking about just like the amount of people that were at the club. Like participants, yes, it was like 120. Then we had like the volunteers that were there just because they want to just like welcome these people. It was about like 20 of them. Then the coaches were there, like around 15 of them. So it was like this crazy event, which was I think the people just like got to see something that they haven't seen anywhere else. Which at the end of the day,
I think we got volunteers more because they were like, did she pull this off? I gotta come see this.
But that's Lisa, you remember when we got in touch, you actually also were a little bit like afraid, like, oh my God, 120 people, the coaches, how are we gonna do this? But the thing is that when you put that big of a goal and that like massive number, like it's we can say it as it is. It's quite big, like a lot of people. You cannot say like, oh, it's little people. So what that does is that everyone kind of like, they're like thinking of it and they're like, is this like really going to happen? Like 120 people?
No one thought it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen until about halfway through the marketing campaign.
Oh my God. We were clear with you guys, like this is going to happen. Like we are setting the whole, and we said it from the beginning. And I think a lot of clubs, like, especially if you haven't done like stuff like this before, like you really think like, oh my God, like where are they even pulling these numbers from? Like, are they insane? Like, how are they going to be able to bring 120 people when we are like just barely getting like 16 people to fill out 2 weights for our beginners programs? But I just want for everyone watching this, it's like totally, it's not the same thing. So you cannot really compare it. And also the amount of times that we have done it, like on every program that we have done, we have got the amount that we wanted. So we we capped off the spots, which was the same thing that happened here. We had to close down.
We had to close it down 3 weeks early because we hit the number. So yeah, pretty cool.
That was pretty cool also. Now, just like to talk a little bit more about like now we have talked. I think we have like covered up quite a lot about the actual program. The thing that you said with the coaches also, it worked really good. Obviously, we had also some talks before with them, just so they understand also, like, it's one thing people knowing how to coach, and another thing to just like make sure that people get a good experience. Like, it's almost like it kind of goes hand to hand, but it's not really something that is like usually speaking of when you are a coach. Like, it's like, oh, how do you set the pitch, or how do you make a good training program, or how do you make sure that people row correctly, or maybe some safety. But like when it comes to actually what do you say, like how do you feel people seeing, like, and how do you make people fall in love with the sport? That's something that like not, I think there's not like that much training out there when it comes to like these programs that federations put out, because they are mostly done for people that want to get at a higher level as a coach and want to like really dial in with numbers and this and that. But in the beginning, like we walked through, like just if you know more than the people that you are actually coaching, and you are really good at making them feel safe and making them feel seen, then you are a perfect fit for a coach for a program like this. And that's exactly what we did with the high schoolers. Turned out to work really good. Now, Lisa, tell us a little bit more. How many people from these people that we got from the start have continued? How much new money has that brought into the club? And also how you guys now, just because like, just from the amount that you learn from running this big of a program, it almost feels like running the continuation of it. It becomes like a game. Like if you can handle 120 people, like the continuation is like it's almost like the easy part. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So retention wise, we hit 41%, which I was actually really, really happy with. So like I said, that doubled the size of our adult program from obviously a retention standpoint. So hugely successful. And as far as, continuation of that, as with anything, we're 3 months post first strokes. There are a few people as we approach fall that have said, hey, I'm traveling a bunch for October, but I'm going to be back in the spring. Right. So like that energy is there where, because we actually offer month-to-month memberships. And so, you're going to have a little bit of that, but you're going to have that with any sales cycle, so it's not anything that it's still insanely encouraging. The number of people that we have, we're actually going to regatta this weekend and taking people from first strokes to their first regatta. Really? So it's like, we're seeing, we have a couple, novice boats that we're going to take down the course. And it just to see that progression and that retention rate has been huge. And, now we're going into winter training, and the numbers and the planning we're having to do for how we're going to execute indoor training is significantly different because our numbers are different, and so, we're having a, rowing for fitness, and we're also having a rowing for athletes, so we're offering, even in that programming, different paths that we hadn't before, because we've got people who are there for different reasons. Like I said, we have first strokes people that graduated that are now racing, while we still have people from first strokes that are just enjoying the process, right? So we have to be able to, even from a winter training on the ergs and the weights, offer different programming. So it's really just been a catalyst for forcing the club to just expand offerings and approach it differently. But it's all because we have enough numbers to do it. And that's where I think that kind of go big or go home as a club, you just need to approach it that way. You can't go in and say, oh, well, it'd be great if we just, usually we have 10, maybe we'll go for like 30. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to get that change that you're looking for if you don't just go for it. That would be my biggest advice is because, all of these changes that we've had is because we ended up with, 50 new people, or actually, I'm sorry, more than that. But a large number of people. And so, that retention rate is the key, is just keeping that retention rate as high as possible and keeping them in the program.
Exactly. And I think also like what you said, Lisa, makes a ton of sense. And like you have said it a lot of times throughout this interview. And I just want to put some emphasis into this because like, just, like things, doing something good takes time, right? Doing something good takes time. So you better do it big. So you just like make a massive good impact instead of just like putting all this time and then doing like bringing 3-4 people. Like, and also like how these kind of things work is like what we usually say to the clubs is that you need to bring in a group large enough that is self-sustainable, that you could actually almost like pull on the side, and you are now your own thing until you become at the certain level to join everyone else. So, and what that size is minimum 30 people. And
Mhm.
remember, most of the clubs don't even run 30 people in the front end, like for the first
Right.
program. We tend to say to the clubs that you need to have at least 30 people in the back end, because that's how you build retention. That's how people feel excited being part of something big. If let's say me and Lisa got out of a Learn to Row with only 10 people and we are the only ones that like rowing, and then suddenly Lisa I don't know, change job or maybe leaves the city, then my best friend, the only one that I really connected with, is out of the club. Guess what's going to happen? I'm gonna be out of there quite soon also. So it just like makes everything really, really volatile if you do it at a small scale. Now let's take the same example. Me and Lisa graduated from a program, but so did 30 other people. Now Lisa leaves. I mean, it sucks, but I have 30 more friends that I can continue training with, which makes a really huge difference. And the amount of difference we have seen in retention with clubs here in Sweden throughout the winter is crazy. And then also the thing that you said, Lisa, that's actually something that we are talking about now with IRC to maybe develop towards next year. Like, what is the best offer to give just after a program like this? And honestly, like, I think the program is such a big decision to take, and as a club, and just walking through the process, that I think it's almost good to take things step by step, because like we have been in contact, I think that there are much better things you can give to people just after they join the program instead of mouth to mouth. Mouth to mouth is almost like, you know what, here you go. You are able to live whenever you want, even if you haven't like got to experience the whole experience that we have put for you, which is, like we said before, not maybe the best thing out of giving value to people. Because if you have put this big plan as a club, like, oh, we're going to retain the people, and we're going, after 6 months, we're going to go to this competition, then we're going to go there, and then we're going to go there, and then you just like don't communicate that clearly to people, then maybe someone drops after the first month and they didn't experience this crazy good thing that you built for them. So then you have to also think a little bit accordingly there. So you make sure that you get people through the doors and they actually consume the things that you make for them, because that's why you put them in place. Now, Lisa, also you run this month-to-month program, and you charge the money for that, obviously. And we said before that it's good to charge money. So how much money did the club bring in from this new wave of people in a monthly basis?
Yeah, so the first month it was about $8,500 was the monthly residual from the conversion. And so obviously you multiply that number by 12 months, that's a great number. So I mean, I think, like, to your point, we're going to explore some different options on pricing for next year and things like that. But we wanted to keep it affordable and affordable and also competitive with the market. What was the cost of a gym membership? Plus obviously there's equipment fees and things like that. So just trying to be cognizant of it, especially because it was our first one. We did want to be a little bit careful and try to maximize that retention rate, because if we didn't retain, then we weren't going to be making any money. So we were a little bit conservative on that point potentially, and that's something we might look at next year.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, like, obviously doing things. And now in Sweden, we have been running the program with, like, for the second year with clubs, and then it becomes like, you are almost like going into it with a totally different air. You're like, whatever, like this, I know that this, like, whatever, 120, that's nothing, So it's funny, like, one of the clubs that we run the program this year here in Sweden, like, we doubled the amount of people we brought in from the first program. And the first time they were like, oh my God, this is so many people. And the next time they were like, just bring more. We have the structure now, bring more. Do your thing, which was also fun to see. Now, Lisa, we've been talking for a while. Now, I want you just to tell us this, like, if you would, let's say that a club is with us on this call, or maybe is watching this. what would you say to those clubs that maybe are watching this, especially since we have talked so much about like the US market? What would you say to the US clubs watching this, and maybe they, they say like, what, this is cool, like you guys made money, you brought in new people, but maybe they are on the fence, maybe they think like, is this the right move, is it not? What would you say to those clubs?
It's a good question. I think it all comes down to, you need to really think about and decide what the goal of your club is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the goal of your club is to stay small, if the goal of your club is to maybe not press the envelope and try to maybe get those better coaches and get the money in to have more scholarships. Honestly, if your goal is just to stay where you are, right? Like, because some people are happy where they are. Change is scary, right?
Yeah.
and that's just human nature. And so, there are a lot of clubs and boards out there that are happy with where they're at. They're happy with what they're doing. They're happy with their boats and their club and their members and their rowers and how they're performing in competitions and things like that. But if you want your club to grow and be able to expand in the market that you're in and provide better services to your rowers, be better stewards of rowing, share the message of what rowing is and what it can bring to people. And honestly, one of the biggest things that I think it also does is it builds friendships. And, I think as adults, a lot of us have a hard time making friends. And so even if from that aspect, if you're a club or a group that wants to kind of bring that joy and light into the world, well, then you should go for it, because the benefits, like I said, the ripples and the benefits from it are just a multitude. So I kind of say it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but if you are happy where you are and you kind of are adverse to change, then maybe you should just keep doing what you're doing. You're probably not ready for this, because it's going to come, and it's going to come fast, and it's going to come hard, and it's going to work. So you really have to just make sure, if you do decide to do this, that you're going into it with the mindset that we're going to have to be open to change. We're going to have to change things. That doesn't mean you have to change your culture of your club, but you're going to have to be bold, and you're going to have to make some strategy changes, because there's going to be more people. There's going to be more money coming in. And you're going to have to set it up for success after the program. So you really need to push yourself to be forward thinking of, when this works, how am I going to service these customers and these rowers? It really, that would be the biggest thing I would really warn any board, any club going into this is, don't go into it casually. You need to go into it knowing that this is going to work and planning for it to work. Because if you don't, then it's going to be for nothing, because you're going to end up with rowers. And then it's your job to figure out how to keep them and how to make your club work with these new athletes. So I give kudos to our club, because we set it up to take in 41% retention rate. We were ready. We had all the coaches trained. We had everybody ready to go. We had the boats, we had the staff, we had the crew. So we planned for that. So that would be my biggest advice to any club.
Yeah, and I really like, I was sitting actually yesterday, I was like in Stockholm. I was doing another club interview with one of the other clubs, and we ended up at the same discussion. Like, you have to almost like have this North Star, like, why are you doing this? And this is not only because like, if you don't have the North Star, you are not allowed to do it. Like, by all means, you can still do it, but then it becomes just like, why are we even doing this? You get it? So on our side also, I really like when the club like sets the goal that says like, this is the actual reason why we want to do that. And the reasons can, like, the amount of reasons we have been doing this program with clubs is like, everyone almost has their own reason, Like, some of the clubs want to make more money so they can buy new boats. Some other clubs want to just like you said, get what they already have, like this funny situation where you have like rowers row just for fun, and you just want more of that. Some other clubs want to develop coaches. They don't have any coaches, and they feel like they're all the time like getting stuck, like, so they have one coach, and then maybe the coach leaves, and then they need to bring someone else, and it just fall all the time back to habits. We had another club that wanted to bring in more people that competed. So you can almost, the opportunities of setting up your goal is they are like unlimited. You just need to talk with your board and actually take the conversation. Sometimes maybe there are also like a little bit tough conversations because like everyone on the board maybe have like different ideas, but you just need to have like a direction as a club. Because even if you like, no matter if you run this program or not, if you don't have a direction with the club, like it's not good. Like it's like sooner or later something is going to break, or someone is going to get mad, or something is going to like it's not like. And you are also not doing like your let's say part of growing the sport, because after all we are clubs, and like our mission, I hope, out there is just to like get out, like you said, Lisa, get out the word of rowing and just make sure that people know what rowing is, get a good experience, tell their friends, their family that, you know what, rowing is that's the sport, that's the thing. I'm gonna do that. So I think like if you have that in place, that you have your goal, you know that we are a club that just wants to give good experience to people and have people decide what they want to do, or we are a club that are super competitive, or we are a club that just needs more money to fresh the whole thing up, then you have like a goal, and then it's much easier to fix everything. Because you can agree with me, Lisa, on this, like let's say the struggles that we had, like with finding coaches, doing this, doing that, they are just like that. They are like small steps of the process. Like if you see it with an open mind, you can sort them out. It's just that you need to have enough motivation within yourself, the board, so you can actually so you are actually will to do that. So you're actually will to take action. And now, Lisa, we talked about, now you guys are obviously a club that is quite big, but we have run this program with like really small clubs, big clubs. Do you think that there is any like let's say club that this works best for, like any size, or do you think that this can work for whatever the size?
So I think your club has to be at a point where it's at kind of what we talked about. You've run it as just a traditional non-for-profit. It's not big, not small, but you do have to have enough equipment. In my opinion, I know that you guys have run it at some clubs that are very, very short on equipment, but I think to be successful with retention, you have to have enough equipment to make it work after the fact. Not only executing the program in and of itself, but you need to have enough boats to be able to execute practices. You need to have enough launches to execute a practice. You need to have enough coaches. So I think there is in my opinion, a certain level that a club needs to be at. Now, it doesn't need to be crazy high, but I think you need to do some self-assessment and say, if we doubled in size, could we structure practices such that we could get all these people on the water? And not that everybody shows up to practice every single time, but do some rough math. If we have 50 people in our club and 20 people showed up for practice, could we execute? And do we have enough coaches for that? And and how would that look, and how would that play out? So I think it's really club specific, but I would say really taking a hard look at equipment, just the operational parts of it, because once you kind of go through this process, you're ready for the step of that, because it forces you to go through, where are we at right now? What do we have in the boathouse? What do we have to use to do this?
It's quite a good like evaluation also, like what do we have, what we don't have. And also obviously just like for everyone watching this, we have like some kind of criteria that the club has to actually fulfill in order to be able to run this. Like, and these have mostly to do with what Lisa said, the equipment, also with like how many members you have within the club. If there is like only one member, then it's going to be a hard time for us to like fix everything. But usually, like with a goodwill, you can actually get things done, no matter like how the size of the club, as long as you have the equipment, which is good to know also for some clubs out there, maybe that they think like, they heard of your club, Lisa, and they said like, "Oh my God, that's a big club." Like, okay, that's why they. What I'm trying to say is that the number that you guys had on your program had nothing to do with actually how big your club was. Like the club can be almost half of the size, and you can have the same amount of people. It's just like the equipment and being ready for it.
We came up with the number of 120 based upon how many loved eights we had that we could use, and that fit into our programming. So you do really need to operationally back in to what that goal number is, because if you can't execute, if you don't have the equipment, well, you can't row a boat. So you do need to. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Lisa. Now, last thing to just wrap this up. It's been a long interview, but I think we have covered a lot of good things within this interview, and I hope that this also brings some excitement to some clubs. Maybe to some clubs, it just sparks interest to maybe. Maybe to get just like to open up their mind and see that there are other stuff also. Maybe some other clubs say like, you know what, no, I like what we are doing is really good. Like that's up on you guys watching this. But I just wanted to ask you, what are the next steps for IRC now going into the next year, and also with the people that you've got, like what do you want to do with them?
Yeah, when we started this out, setting up the team structure was a dream, right? So setting up a structure where, we have a team we call Foundations, which is basically an extension of Learn to Row. Then we created a team called Performance, which is, they're not quite competitive, but they're in that, they're ready. They want to learn. We just moved our first group of 20 athletes up to that team. So there's some bigger goals that we had coming off of this program that are starting to happen. Mentioning we're taking a boat, some athletes to race their first race, going into winter training, coming up with this new structure with these athletes. So the things that we have in play now are from the benefits of the program. And I'd say, what's next? We want to do we're no longer doing monthly Learn to Rows next year. We're going to just do one big program. Because it just works. It allows a large group to come in together, and the athletes feel as a team already. It's helpful for the coaches as far as strain on them. Yes, it's a very, very, very tough month to run that many sessions. But if you go into it with the headspace of, it's just 1 month, we can do it, right? Then there's some rally behind it, and it also reduces the fatigue on the volunteers. So there's a lot of benefits, and that's kind of the approach we're looking to take with you guys next year. Of how can we execute this just one time like we did, and hopefully even make that retention rate even higher. So that's kind of where we're hoping to.
Yeah, and that's like the discussion that we have been like, how can we so. Just for everyone watching this, I just want to close this, but just saying there is so much things that you can improve within a club. So you need to take this in steps. You have to prioritize. So like we did with IRC, we said you know what? In order to even get anyone fired up or do something for the situation, we need to aim high. We aimed high, we got the people. Now that allowed the whole club to understand, okay, this is something that you can do. And then next step from that is obviously just taking everything that you have built and just taking everything to the next step. And there are hundreds of things you can do to improve retention. There are hundreds of things you can do to improve conversion from the people. And that's actually what we are going to do next year with you guys. And I think that's if you just take, there is a saying that if you just get 1% better every day, that at the end you're going to become so much better overall. So instead of just thinking, and it's the same, now we are rowers. It's the same when you actually row. You don't think of everything, fixing everything, fixing the catch, fixing the finish. You think of one thing a year. Let's say this year my catch is going to be the best in the world. And then next thing you know, you are oh my God, I got so good catches. But now on my video, I can see that my finishes are so off, and
Right.
that's what to fix next year. So just if you
Yep.
take it in steps, you can make crazy big difference, both when it comes to just like serving the people, but also, like we said in the beginning, at the end of the day, just like getting the funds to be able to do stuff and to be able to serve the people. And one more time, Lisa, it's been really fun to work with you guys. Like this whole experience. I mean, first time within the US have been amazing, and we are also looking really much forward to bring this program to other clubs also within the US that maybe are facing maybe are facing the same challenges, or maybe they are facing different challenges, but they could benefit from this. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, just like growing the sport is really fun, and it's also nice to just be able to do that with so many different clubs around, like both in the US and here in Sweden. We're also talking now with some clubs in Germany, so it's really fun, I think. And also this allows us as well to, like, see stuff that one club is doing there and just like recommend it to other clubs. So let's say that maybe the German clubs are doing something really good that we can bring into the US, or the US clubs are doing something good that we can bring into the Germany, which eventually makes rowing really big and strong. And that's that's the goal of all this. Now,
that's the goal.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for taking your time and walking through the whole program and your experience with us. Now, to everyone that's watching this video, I'm going to have a link below here where you can actually go and apply to work with us if you think that that's something that you would like to explore, or at least hear more like what we could do with your club. Now, if you're seeing this on the website, there's going to be a link or a button where you can press on it, and it's going to take you to the same place. So with that said, once again, thank you, Lisa. It has been a really nice long interview, and we are going to be talking more actually on one of our meetings later on this week. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. So goodbye, everyone.